Call into session the August 22nd, 2017 Planning Commission meeting. For the record, our Chairman Waschinger is absent. First order of business, approve the minutes of July 25th, 2017 regular business meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes from the July 25th, 2017 meeting.
I second it.
We have a first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Negative? Nope. Okay, our second item is the public comment period. Planning Commission would accept public comments from for items not otherwise on the agenda for the first 15 minutes of the Planning Commission meeting. Seeing nobody from in the audience, we'll go to our first public hearing, which is Secure Transportation Improvement Program.
Good evening. I'm Arnie Peterschmidt, project engineer with the City of Oak Harbor Public Works Department, and I'm here to present the 2018-2023 Transportation Improvement Program. The purpose of this presentation to the Planning Commission is to meet the public hearing requirement. It's part of state law that we do this, and to seek the Planning Commission's recommendation for accepting the TIP and recommending approval of the program to the City Council. The Oak Harbor Transportation Improvement Program is a requirement of state law that we do this. It's an annual process that we update our TIP, and the TIP is a document that looks ahead 6 years. The TIP is used to facilitate use of federal transportation funds on city projects, and it's also helps us coordinate with other state and local agencies. Our TIP, once approved by City Council, is forwarded to the Island Regional Transportation Planning Organization. The IRTPO then compiles our TIP along with others in the region from the other cities on the island and Island County, and submits that to the state, and then the state in its turn prepares a statewide TIP in January, which they in turn forward on to the Federal Highway Administration. The projects listed on the 2018-2023 TIP are the Northeast 7th Avenue Reconstruction Project between North Oak Harbor Street and SR 20, the Northwest Heller Street Overlay Project, which extends from Whidbey Avenue to Crosby Avenue, and the waterfront trail improvements, those that are in Veterans Park, where we had a landslide a few years ago. Northeast 7th Avenue project is partially funded by federal surface transportation funds. We went through a competitive process and were awarded some funds for that. We hope to also get some funds from the Transportation Improvement Board, the Washington State Transportation Improvement Board, and also we'll have to contribute a significant amount of our own funds to fully fund the project. The estimated cost is currently $4.7 million. We anticipate beginning design in 2018, and then going on to the right-of-way process or right-of-way acquisition process in 2019. And if all goes well, we'll be going to construction in 2020. The Northwest Heller Street Overlay is a maintenance project. There were some local, a portion of the federal funds allotted to the Island Regional Transportation Organization were set aside for maintenance by all the participating agencies, and this is our maintenance project. It's just a basic overlay of Northwest Heller from Woodby to Crosby to preserve the road so that it'll last us years longer without any more major work. Total estimated construction cost is $361,000. It'll be funded primarily by the federal dollars, but also we'll have some local match, and particularly with regard to American improvements to the sidewalk ramps, which we'll have to fund that ourselves. Presently, we're planning to design this project early in 2019 and then go to construction in the summer of 2019. Developing the tip doesn't involve any direct cost to the city. And the action that we're requesting of you tonight is to conduct a public hearing for the 2018-2023 Transportation Improvement Program, and also recommend that the City Council adopt the program for the next year. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So I see that you've got 3 projects on there, and the last of them is supposed to be construction in 2020. According to the charts that you have included here, what happens between 2020 and 2023? Are we just going to wait and put things on for those years in future tips?
Yes, the Northeast 7th Avenue project is expensive enough that we're not going to have funds in the absence of a new funding source for more than you see on the tip.
When we talked about this last year, you guys had talked about, since it's a feeder road, that you might be able to get more federal funds. Is that not likely to happen?
For Heller, or for 7th?
Yeah.
It could happen. We'll apply for more at the next call for projects. Yeah. And then that will change the picture, and we'll go back to our transportation plan and go to the next high-ranking project and put that on the tip.
Okay, thank you.
Is this the same 7th Avenue project that was pulled a couple years ago?
Yes.
Because we didn't have the matching, we got the grant money, but we didn't have the matching funds to build it.
That's correct.
So it's exactly the same as it was before?
Yes.
Okay. Good. I'm pleased to see that back on the TIP. So it's well needed. Anybody from the public to speak on it, so I'll close this public hearing. Gentlemen, any questions or any other comments?
For me. I recommend that the City Council adopt the 2018-2023 6-year Transportation Improvement Program.
A second?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is it's a public meeting, transportation concurrency for the Growth Management Act, GMA, requires a timely provision of public facilities and services related to demand for them. Mr. LaFever?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the commission. This is your first touch on this item. It's a new item that we've been working on for a little bit now and bringing forward for your initial review. So I'll keep my view on this subject kind of at the high level approach, kind of a little bit of background. Arnie will join me in the discussion as to why we're looking at this piece of our code in the first place, some of the issues that we've had administering the concurrency ordinance, and kind of a brief look at how we're looking at maybe fixing the code. We again are working with Fair and Peers, who helped us with our transportation plan from last year, if you recall. They've been assisting us on looking at the concurrency ordinance that we have in place. And concurrency, as Vice Chair mentioned, it's part of the Growth Management Act. It's one of the goals, Goal 12 as a matter of fact, and it states, public facilities and services ensure that those public facilities and services necessary to support development shall be adequate to serve the development at the time the development is available for occupancy and use without decreasing current service levels below established minimum standards. So in a nutshell, it's saying that growth needs to pay for its impacts to city services. What we are focusing on in this piece of legislation will be the transportation piece of concurrency. It does affect other systems in the city. It can deal with parks and recreation, stormwater facilities, schools, but tonight we're just going to be focusing on transportation. We do address concurrency in our comprehensive plan. Under our transportation element, policy 2.D states very clearly that we need to maintain concurrency between land development and installation of required transportation facilities consistent with the capital improvement plan. So that's just basically meeting the GMA through our comprehensive plan requirements and in our policies for our transportation element. This then is reflected in our chapter of the municipal code, which is 11.32, which basically lays out why we have concurrency and how we procedurally deal with the concurrency requirement that we have. And that was passed by Ordinance 1051 back in 1996. So what does it really say as far as how we administer concurrency for transportation? Procedurally, what we look at is any new development that comes in needs to look at a concurrency test. What we do then is assess the type of use, the density if it's a residential subdivision, or intensity of use if it's a non-residential development. We plug that use, density or intensity into the ITE, which is the kind of the Bible for trip generation. It's a universally used document that identifies what framework of trips are associated with what type of development. So we plug that in, and of course, as you are aware from our transportation plan of last year, we have levels of service that we plugged into our different modes of transportation. So with the new trips that are generated by this new development, in addition to the existing trips that are already in that segment of the transportation, if it passes a concurrency test, there is no additional need to, other than the payment of the impact fees that are associated with that, the development can move forward. If the new trips, in addition to the existing trips, results in a failure of the concurrency test, then the applicant has options according to our code, which means to either amend the application by reducing the impact through a reduction in trips, the intensity of the use, or potentially the reduction in residential units. Arrange for the transportation improvements, basically build what needs to be built to bring that levels of service back up to our standard. Or the application will be denied and the applicant has a right to appeal that application or that denial. Transportation concurrency is the only one where we have the right to really deny an application based on deficiencies of levels of service. So with that in a nutshell, I'm going to turn it over to Arnie then, and he can basically address why are we looking at this section in our code in the first place.
The reason that we're looking at this section of the code and proposing to change it is because it's become an outdated system. It was what was recommended at the time in 1996 when the Growth Management Act became the law of the land, and we've been using it ever since. And it's cumbersome. It's a lot of work for the applicant, and it's a lot of work for staff. And over the time, it's become obvious that there's some issues with it, particularly with the level of detail across our system that's required. It starts with a trip distribution estimate, you know, for a project. Where are all the cars coming to that project come from, and where are they going to? And then we look, oftentimes the applicant will have to analyze a number of intersections that are, you know, away from their project for a level of service impact. And then there's good potential for a disproportionate impact to a single project. We have intersections that are, you know, everybody uses or widely used, not just by a single project. And all the projects that have come before, they've passed their concurrency test for that intersection, and then one more project comes along, and as traffic builds over time, boom, they can, you know, the few trips that they generate can trigger a failure, and it can have a big impact on their project. And they could wind up saddled with you know, say, changing from a stop sign to a traffic signal, when their project really only contributed, you know, a smaller percentage of the trips through that intersection. And so we didn't have a good way of addressing that with our current system, and so we were looking for something better. The new concurrency program that we're bringing along takes a more holistic view of the transportation system capacity. It'll be based on a citywide analysis of the number of trips that our entire system can handle. And then as long as we stay on the positive side and have trips to issue to a development project, they can pass concurrency. And we'll be taking kind of pulling back to reviewing safe site access for a new project. Can the trips that this project generates and attracts transit safely in and out of the project? You know, does their connection to our existing system have the capacity, and is it safe? So it's much more of a limited focus, and it ties in with the projects in our TIP and in our transportation plan, where we will be keeping track of our system capacity and adding to it with projects like the Northeast 7th Avenue project. And in that way, we can remain concurrent and a little more flexible with our applicants. The next steps in this process is to develop a draft code amendment. We're working on that now. You can expect to see that in your September Planning Commission packet. We'll have a chance to talk about it at that time. Then we'll refine it some more and come back with a public hearing in either October or November. And hopefully we can have it wrapped up by the end of the year. We are intending to bring it to the council for to their workshop in September, and then for approval late in the year. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Is this going to help streamline, Mr. Petersmith, the process, or?
We hope so. That's our goal, is to streamline and make it a little more reasonable.
Because I know this was one of the issues that just constantly we're facing is, the traffic issues when a new development is proposed and then ultimately approved. Recently, we did something like that, and it's because of the traffic pattern that we had the problem. But I still see the same situations occurring if you've got a deficient traffic flow in a particular area, and you do add something additional to that, there is going to be an impact, but there's no way to spread that around other than with the new development. Is that a fair statement?
The concurrency is not the only way available to us to address a specific issue of a project overloading one intersection. We still have SEPA that we can rely on if we see, a big impact to a particular place coming. But in general, this concurrency program should help our city staff and the applicant
So this is
with
through
the
the application
typical
process. They already know what to look forward to,
Yes.
and what obstacles or potential issues may arise.
It makes
before they
it
come.
yeah. It makes it easier for them to foresee. Yes.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. This fits the type of development that's typical of Oak Harbor, with smaller individual developments, which is, the great majority of the projects that come in.
Question, when you look at traffic flow, does it differentiate the traffic during development, like contractors, vendors? Does it differentiate those from finished project traffic?
We don't examine the temporary impacts of that occur during construction.
So is that dealt with in another place in the application?
Yes, well, probably through the right-of-way permits that they'll have to obtain to make any changes in the right-of-way. If they're doing roadway construction, they'll have to have traffic control plans and show us how they intend to keep the traveling public safe and moving, and we review and approve those.
Okay. Second question is if those impacts occur on a state route, say Highway 20 going through town, how does that impact our process at the local level? Do we have any pull over how that is mitigated? Is that something that gets kicked off to the state? How does that work?
We collaborate with the state, but within city limits, we manage the right-of-way and access to it. But we abide by, state design guidelines for intersection spacing and driveway widths and the design of those features.
So it says here that a city-wide roadway capacity assessment will be established. So when does that baseline assessment happen?
It's already happened. It happened with Fair and Pierce conducted that study for us as part of the development of the transportation plan. They did a transportation model of the entire city and have our general capacity.
So,
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you, Mr. Peterson.
You're welcome.
thanks.
The third item on the agenda tonight is the comprehensive plan amendment, park plan update. It's a public meeting.
Good evening, CACMAC Senior Planner. Don't have a presentation, just a quick update. The staff has been working on some public participation in the last few weeks, and we've got a survey on SurveyMonkey, and I've been told that the link has been sent out to the, I just got back, so I'm just kind of catching up, to the commission and the council. So I hope you received the link, and please feel free to forward it to folks that you guys know. We'll have it on our website and other places as well. The last time, the plan actually suggests that the city does a similar survey every year to collect the similar data so that you can assess the data over time, over a period of 6 years, and see what the changes are. Our survey is basically designed based on, quality and quantity type issues, so we're just collecting basic information. We've altered the survey just a tad bit to collect some specific information that we were hearing from just people in the community and asking clarifications on the plan, so we wanted to add a few things so that we can get feedback. We met with the leagues that play in our sports field. We kind of had a chat with them to see about their facility, their use of the facilities and whether it's adequate, and what their plans are going into the future as Oak Harbor's population grows and stuff. So we collected a lot of that information and then tried to improve on the survey a little bit so that we can get some feedback on that. So the survey's out, and we're hoping to get feedback. Last time we had about 600 or so responses, so hopefully we can do a little better this year. So, but other than that, I don't have much of an update. We are still planning on trying to get the City Council, Park Board, and the Planning Commission all together in a joint meeting. We're hoping it'll be in the middle of September. September 20th is the tentative date. It's a Wednesday in the afternoon that we're hoping. We'll plan for it, and once we have that confirmed, we'll send invitations out to you as part of that. So other than that, I don't have much information. Do you have any questions about any of the park plan or the survey or anything like that? Any feedback?
Well, I received the survey, and I did take the time to complete it,
Oh, good.
and I thought it was very well presented, and the public comment piece of it is good,
Okay, good.
and I applaud you for that, but I did my part.
Good.
I hope to be one of those 1,200 this time.
Yeah, we SurveyMonkey is great. It's
Yeah.
cell phone and tablet friendly, so we hope that it's convenient for people to take it and use it. So Lisa just checked in, and she says that we already have 135 responses for that. So pretty good. In parks, people are usually always happy to give their 2 cents on parks, so we'll take it all day. So, any other questions?
No, I have nothing.
All right, thank you.
Jay. Our next regular business meeting is on September the 26th, and this concludes tonight's Planning Commission meeting. Meeting's adjourned.